then no matter what it takes, it should happen every month. So let's say that 5 people join a meetup or an event, then 5 people go, but you still have to continue the event every month, and that builds the brand in a way that people will say actually they host every month consistently, and that's where people start joining because they know that if they plan something, they know that it's there for them.
That's a really good point.
Consistency.
Yeah, never cancel. Like never cancel. Like if it's a community, not an event, you're not gonna cancel on those 3 guys, right?
Yeah, exactly, because they still matter.
Yeah, you should still turn up. Like every single person, every single interaction. So when we train our meetup volunteers, because they run the meetups on our behalf, we tell them that show up, make people welcome. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Those are the first 2 rules of community building, right? Like show up every time and then make everyone feel welcome. And that's pretty much it. And then they just kind of grow if you do those 2 things.
One key point I want to touch, I think, just kind of wrapping up this guy's thoughts, is communities evolve throughout time. So you started with a blockchain community or AI community, that might turn into something different. And you observing that in making the right changes and the right mission statements change will be a benefit for the whole thing. Because obviously people evolve, groups evolve, so tribes evolve, right? So I guess it will be like receiving what your community and how the community changes, and what can we adapt those changes for the community itself, right?
Yep.
That's interesting. Then how do we leverage technology on the side to support the involvement of community, right?
So that is a good point, that the tech should support, right, the humans again, and this is the trend that we see now, right? People are talking more about human-centered design, right? How can we be more empathetic, right? These are all human qualities because we went too far on the tech side. And to touch on his point,
we went too far on the tech side.
Yeah, I think we went so far to the tech side that even Facebook had to change its mission statement, right? Their mission was connect the world. Then they realized connecting is not enough, right? We're all connected to how many people? How many of them do you know, right? Actually know. That's cool. You know, and as I get older too, I realize, you know, some of the things our parents would say is like, you know, the people you hang around the most, right? You know, smaller groups of people that you actually know, because that's where all the relationships come from. But yeah, you know, the consistency is part of the rituals I was talking about, right? Just show up. That's one of our values too. Just show up, even if it's imperfectly, right? Even if you're there and you're feeling sick or something. Well, I don't know if you're feeling sick, but at least show up in some form. You know.
I do have one point to add, which is I like the consistency part. I think another key point is it has to have learnings. Like intrinsically, human beings are drawn to learning new things. So if you're running a community, monthly events, make sure that every time there's a new learning perspective for the whole audience. And with that learning, you can also do a support system. So you can teach each other something, and that is going to strengthen your community.
Yeah, that's part of the learning, reiterate, learn, evolve, right? It's like a plant. You feed and it grows, and it's just a weird shape, and they're like, what is this shape about? And you know why. Just let it be.
Community building is like being a gardener, right? Like a lot of the times, yeah, you're planting a seed and you're like doing the bits and pieces, but you have to let go of the true and, you know, allow it to grow. But you need to prune, and you know, if you want it to be a beautiful target, like that's a good analogy again.
I love it. Like I use these analogies all the time. I'm like, it's like a garden. You can't just make it happen. Like you got to give it time. You know, I get so frustrated around the expectations, right? The challenge I think sometimes is the expectation of what will this community deliver. Like when are we going to get the return? Right? You guys get it as well. Like when are we going to get the return on investment?
Return on investment,
right?
I mean, I think it's a great thing that we actually discuss about this evolution, the consistency in the tech. I want to focus first on the two, and then if we have time, we can focus on maybe eventually in the text. The first two is about the evolution and the consistency. Like, as an entrepreneurs, we know that what Kevin said, that we need to be learning things in order to share that knowledge that we have. Like what Gina, you mentioned earlier that we need to have a balance on. I know, sorry, it was George. That we need to have a balance on focusing our energy on learning and then socializing with people. But sometimes it's really hard to balance the two. Yeah. We need to learn and then we need to socialize. We need to be consistent with the people. Like, how do we find the balance of actually being there and then still learning and be able to share and help people?
You want me to answer or judge or? Okay, how to balance? I probably use the word harmony more than I use balance these days, because balance, you often think that you need to be like equal all the time, right? But like harmony is like you can have conflicting things together, right? Like you can have the good and the bad together sometimes, but it's like extremes that become the issue. So when I look at socializing and learning, like ideally, I love it when I'm socializing and learning at the same time. Some of the best things I've learned have been from random conversations. You know, I mean, this could be a form of socialization. Like we're learning from each other right now. So if we're looking at the business side of marketing, it's like how can you replicate these type of scenarios, right? Where people don't even realize that they're learning as they're socializing. Because you can see now also too, like formal education sometimes can be a drag. You know, people sitting in a classroom, you know, like the ones who are doodling and whatnot. Whereas like you could. Yeah, right? Whereas, yeah, learning, I think this is why communities are becoming really important. Because sitting around the campfire, right? Or sitting around the fire and, like, storytelling, like, these are all basic fundamentals that was there before. And we try to do it better. I'm not saying that we can't innovate, but it's snapping back to these fundamentals. And I think that's important for us to not forget.
To take that thread on learning and socializing, I think the framework and the context matters a lot.
Oh, for sure,
so
for sure.
Even how you set up the chairs, right, and the stage. Because mentally humans is like we're primed, right? From school and from like kindergarten that okay, you have a stage, they know better than us, right? And therefore we're careful in our interaction.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
But imagine you change that and you do it around circles, right? Like a tribe, like
exactly.
total tribal stuff, right? Okay, yeah, you have the elders there, the leaders, but then you got the rest.
Yeah.
Mentally, you're trying to interact differently, you know? And then I guess that's where you can those socializing and learning with the right framework. Right.
Yeah. Shapes in nature, man, right? Like, I don't know if you've seen Kanye West's new Jesus is King album, right? Like, oh man, the music video for that whole album, right? It's like, they have all the gospel choirs around, like Kanye and stuff in the middle, and just the power of it, you know, you can see, and it's so tribal and instinctual, right? When you watch it, you're just like goosebumps, because that stuff, I think, is in all of us, you know, and there's a return to roots.
You know, and actually, imagine, I did it in Tokyo, and the Japanese are very, so instead of doing the panel, you know, chairs and the panel in the front, we just did it around circle.
Yeah.
Just like the Japanese like, circle, okay.
Yeah.
For like a tech event.
Well, good.
We had 8 investors, and they were like round circle with investors. Yeah. So like everybody got to interact, and everybody had so much fun. So yeah, it was like a strong interaction, learning, socializing. We're not getting enough of this shit for sure. We need more about it.
Yeah, I think that for me, it's also about the learning of the facilitators and managing. We talk a lot about how people can learn from each other, but even just facilitating the entire activity, facilitating events, you learn a lot from how people are interacting. And I think, you know, given the perspective, using a metaphor of like teachers trying to facilitate a learning group like that, you can also learn a lot from. You can also figure out things that you didn't even realize at the start. There are questions you never even thought to ask that you wouldn't have found out if you didn't facilitate that sort of interaction with the community. So for us, that's how we first started learning more about the people we're trying to serve. Right? We didn't even realize that some things were pain points until they started talking about it in a free-flowing conversation. Right? So for us, that's sort of the value we see also learning from people as entrepreneurs and also as people trying to facilitate these kinds of community events.
So,
to add also, so I think those points, and I would like to add one more. Basically, I'm adding this on top of the word evolution. So basically, 5 years ago, he used to share a big story. He started with just one type of event, and then just to make things big. And then suddenly, when the community grew, we realized that we're dealing with different groups of people. Then we realized we had to have specialty groups because at one point we realized that they are all so different that we had to analyze the data and which people are going to contribute more when they meet more people at the same time. So when we evolved, we decided to have 3 groups: one machine learning, one security, one DevOps, I think. And then we realized that actually we're gaining more traction because initially a lot of people were ignoring the general stuff. And then suddenly when we have more specialized groups, we realize that more people contribute to that community and that group because they know that everyone else is similar to themselves.
But then one of its next, right? So you have 3 silos, and then
We still have the general one. So we have the general one for the ones who want to understand the community. So let's say
it goes back. You created 3 silos. These 3 silos go back to the general. Or you force them back.
no, not really. It's like so we have the general one. We didn't remove it. Okay. So it's still there because there are always beginners. There are always people who will because the general stuff will always change, right? But then after a couple of years, we realized that it's no longer basic. The things that we need to talk about here in the Philippines, they're no longer the general stuff. Basically, there are needs like people are asking, let's have more specialized topics like security and cloud, machine learning and cloud, and DevOps and cloud. And for those that request that, then we give them because as long as we reach a certain number of people, then we start giving them that. And then if things change 2 or 3 years from now, we can easily dissolve them and then change strategy. So one example of that would be, let's say, big data, where before big data and data science, they're quite vague before. Then after a couple of years, suddenly it evolved, and then suddenly it became more mature and more defined. And then suddenly, even data science became branched out into different parts like machine learning, data analytics, etc. And then, the world evolves. Definitely, you have to adjust to strategies as well.
Related to that as well, though, 'cause, like, if you think about women's communities, right? You say, hey, all women entrepreneurs, come to this group. Now, in the Philippines, that's a very, very diverse group. You've got everyone who's like making soap and selling it to, sari shop owner, all the way up to like, family-owned conglomerate daughters who are now stepping into leadership. So, how do you serve that group well? So there will be some commonalities across the group that can, sharing and learning that is, regardless of country, regardless of where they're at in their life, where they live, it's going to be the same. So we find similar challenges of women all over the world, right? Whether they're in Saudi Arabia, UK, Bali, Philippines. So they're connected through those commonalities. But then, how do you help a startup and a sari owner think about using tech? It's going to be completely different. So we're at that stage now where we're like, what do we do with this? We have 60,000 members in the Connect community, and they're that wide in terms of diversity. It can actually be quite challenging, and they're all demanding different things, right? They want this, they want this. But I think we use a very valuable word several times, which was the word contribute. Because all good communities, I think, are based on the value of contribution, not turning up and getting something. And I think that's where, again, the difference between networking and community is, again, a little bit different. Because sometimes networking is like, I turned up, I gave you this, I gave you that, and it can become transactional. So once it starts to become more contribution,
that's very tough, like I say, when you have a big community. The tribal, it goes back to the tribal cultural stuff. Spreading that message is really hard because some people might not think get it. They might think, oh, this is kind of this networking model. Yeah, it's a networking event, right? And I'm like, no, it's a community event. Networking event. Like, no, it's like, it's so difficult. I think the problem is we live in an industrialized era for which transactions is the modus operandi, right? It's like, we get together, what's ROI, right? Versus let's build connections on the fluffy stuff. It's like, the problem is right now, focusing on the fluffy part of when people come together, what's the actual outcome? When you say no, it's like having fun, having discussions, learning from each other. That might sound fluffy for a lot of tech.
It does. But that's why you gotta learn the language. Like I look at the investor, the language of investor business, right? It's just another language, another tribe with their own codes, their own ways of doing things, right? So that's one thing I also learned to get out of, right? The fluffy stuff. I had to learn to just translate that to what they wanted to hear, right? and we still do what we do, right? But you just satisfy those basic needs for it, and the rest will come. Like I have a saying, it will come, right? And that's how it is because it's a garden again, and because people. In the finance world, business world, they don't always see everything in terms of communities, right? So that's why even community managers and community people, they might end up getting rid of that title. Just to go back to I'm a marketing manager, right? Or I think you were talking about this before. Just going into traditional titles because it fits in that universe and that language of culture, right? So yeah, we just have to be able to learn that language, right? Still do what we do, you know?
Yeah, so like, I can sense a really good vibe in the panel, but like we went naturally from the topic of consistency to evolution. And then, oh my god, there's a lot of things I want to talk about with you guys, but we have to I'll let you guys discuss it after. So there's a lot.
We're already forming a community.
Yeah. So like, there's a lot of things, and there's a lot of people who want to engage with the community, and sometimes it's hard to engage. So I would like to ask, if someone wants to help, where can they find you? Like, how do they find you? How do they help you? Like even social media, like you can just plug in your social media, your website, email, and then after that, we'll have to let you know.
Just say our emails.
Yeah, I mean just you have it before it.
Do we spell it?
Even just the Facebook group. I thought it. So okay, before we go down, we have one more question. Sorry.
Okay, kasi I'm also into the community building aspect. And one of the problems of community building is to get funding, sponsorships, and support. And once you get it, another challenge that you're facing is to maintain it.
What is it?
To maintain it.
Oh, to maintain.
Yeah. So
Maintain what?
the support.
The money.
Yeah.
Yeah, so keep the money flowing.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Oh yeah, I have a lot of that.
Yeah,
This one is
yeah.
like a
The
big
question
one.
is, how do you monetize community?
Yeah, that's the
Like
question.
that sense.
That's the practical business question. So, yeah. Yeah.
I'm coming from the community.
So I'm sharing this from a perspective of tech communities that are supposed to be free. So
yeah.
So basically, we encountered that discussion probably 2 or 3 years ago. So we asked the same question from another tech leader because we have the answer would be to plan ahead of time. So basically, when you're asking for sponsorship, the advice there would be to anticipate the timing because let's say companies which are much bigger, they have a budget season and they are computing things. So if you're planning to have your group sponsored, you have to plan 6 months, 9 months ahead of time. Submit, talk to the right people, and then expect things to happen not overnight. Probably it's going to take 6 months to 9 months of negotiation. And then once you have the first one, then it's easy to repeat that every year. The first one is usually the hardest.
okay. First attempt.
But you need to talk to the right people also.
Yeah. But I can share a lot of this because we have a VC fund with like Techtonic Ventures. We have VC moderators funding us. And I'm telling you, it's a hard sell for a lot of the companies on the community. Big companies.
If it's just community, right? If you're trying to sell it.
Fucking hard sell. And I hate it because they don't get it. They think, okay, what's the ROI? All these people together, and we're getting leads. Okay, can we get the numbers? Can we get this spreadsheet? Like how many leads and how many monetize? AWS, okay, how many signed customers do you get from your gap? How many clicks? Promise we live in a Google world. How to transform the AdWords into a community? We cannot. Because we got the tribal socializing, learning fluffy stuff, right? So I think we're the dichotomy. The good news I feel is like people want community. The bad news is from the business model. I feel from it's building a different entity that is business model, not money making centric that feeds that community. Yeah, because you want to keep.
So that's exactly what we recommended. Yeah, I was like, the community is so important, it still has to continue, but then I was like, what is the biggest problem that we could potentially solve through a product? I mean, I didn't really think it through like that, it happened in a different way, but yeah, so we think that's the way, because that's not the only problem they have, right? They don't only have a problem of finding talent or looking for jobs. They also have, setting up their VIR tax payments, or getting insurance, or staying in places, or getting trained. So we can build almost an ecosystem because we have the community and we understand them really well. So that's my frustration as well. It's like, can't you see it? It's right there, but you don't monetize that.
Yes.
You offer them solutions. That
Correct.
can help
So
them.
tell us, because you guys, how do you
Yeah.
monetize? Because you already have a structure in place, right? You have community, but you're monetizing in a different way. How are you monetizing yours?
Yeah, we're monetizing it based from essentially lead generation also, right? Which is also very tough business model. So for us, when we decide with young students, they use all of our services for free, which is, I guess some of the challenges of building business. So what we've done is essentially looking at different people who are interested in engaging some community, and then finding a business model for that. So for example, from a large corporation and want to engage someone with the community they have, okay, I pay a subscription fee to be part of the platform, so I can then interact with them without in a different way as opposed to like giving out just pure ads in the network. So we're trying to be a little bit creative with how we let our partners or pay partners engage with the community, because you also have to protect that aspect of the community. You can't just suddenly start monetizing it, right? You can't just suddenly start advertising for products, because then that defeats the point of the went there. Right? So we're trying to be a little creative with how we let partners engage. But yeah, so far that's what we're trying to explore. Charging people fee to interact and be part of that natural community.
Well, I was talking about how I use my community, talking about so essentially for me, these are I'm not, the community should not be organized. Yeah, but the community is not to hard sell them.
Yeah.
It's to help them solve the problem. So with this cycle of product development feedback, one day actually I have a story to tell where a very new company have a year. We spent the first 3 months researching the product, and we're one of the first event organizers that we interview for feedback. They has been tracking us on LinkedIn. One day she just emailed me and said, I've been following Toasty. You guys are doing great. I have an event coming up in a month. I will use you. So like, you don't even need to sell them. Usually the sales cycle is like 2 months for us. People like, she's saying yes to our quotation in 2 days. So I feel like everything goes in sort of feedback, product development, and then sales company.
Yeah, but you have a kind of have event organizing business model, they have community. Probably
Very different.
Yeah, so you have the model already kind of two separate entities.
Yeah.
I tell you, a monetization that's extremely painful in communities, membership. Because my community that I was part of in the UK and the one that I built in Singapore was a membership-led community, and there's nothing more soul-destroying than selling membership. I mean, all membership communities, I think, it's possible to do it and do it well. Many organizations do that model, but my personal experience of it is very, very painful because it becomes automatically a transactional thing. Your membership is up for renewal, pay again, and then they start trying to quantify, what did I get out of it? So, to me, that's not a good model for certain types of, it works for some businesses very well, but for many communities it's not.
And I want to share on the big brands sponsoring. So basically, they want to come out to Japan. Those guys have a lot of money, right? We went to our office and told me, like, holy shit, these guys have a lot of cash. A lot. So one of the partners have been engaged with our events because they wanted to connect with corporates with Japan to Southeast Asia, right? So I went and met with this guy. He's like, hey, you should sponsor us, right? You're devoted to Tomatsu. You have to have budget. It's like, we're short of budget now. I don't have enough money. So until like June next year. Then the budget comes to June. Until now. Yeah. It's like seriously.
And yet sponsorship, right? Sponsorship still sells. Like, we literally have companies reaching out saying, I'll pay you like X amount of blast to use newsletter or X amount to put a banner on your website. And I'm like, no, you keep your money. I'm not doing that. I'm not going to like destroy the integrity of the content that we have by sticking banners on it.
The content on your web.
Yeah, so we have a Connected Women magazine, which is all community contributed content.
Like physically.
No, it's like a web, it's like an online magazine. So all the members write stuff and then we publish it as content. So we have over 2,000
So how much media I'm confused now. Doing connected platform media. So how
We
much
just
is
keep
it?
creating stuff for the members, right? So the members are like, I need to blog. So we train them how to blog and then they don't blog. So I'm like, just give me the content, I will post it. So the magazine started like that. So every time they ask for something and then we give it to them, it wasn't actually what they needed in the first place. So we build stuff for them to use. So we built a magazine, we built the events, community, and then now we're building the job app.
Well, can I just give one?
Sorry, you need to tell us. Okay, there's a lot to discuss.
This is so I mentioned how like my other company Faya, like we deal with blockchain integration. So one of the we focus specifically on Bitcoin BSV. So the original Bitcoin platform itself. A lot of people don't realize what it can actually do, right? So right now there's a few platforms that are going to be reinventing a lot of business models for the future. And why I'm fascinated by it in terms of community interactions is because Bitcoin could actually turn every digital interaction into a paid transaction in the sense that people get rewarded for contributing, which disrupts advertising, which disrupts a lot of different things in behaviors, right? Because the focus then becomes on the interactions themselves, and money gets made actually just by interacting with each other. So right now, we're actually seeing, so there are some online networks and community plays taking place, and it's very interesting to see how people are incentivized to be more honest and provide more value, right? Because, you know, say you look at Twitter, right now you can have the shittiest of shit on Twitter, right? Oh, sorry if that's not allowed on the camera, but, you know, it can be a cesspool of just meaningless stuff, but it can also have valuable stuff. Now, people can actually get rewarded without needing to go to an advertiser or a sponsor or whatnot for putting out useful, valuable content, right? And then behaviorally, people also, if they reshare it, they also get rewarded too. And each chain. Monetize?
No, not just keep track of those interactions. And how do you build a token?
You don't need a token. So it's
How do you see it?
yeah. So what's being experimented with right now is I think essentially there's like a version of Twitter, right, where every interaction is literally a micro transaction. And nope, screw tokens. Sorry, tokens is like it's another conversation. It's another conversation. But think about every piece of data that gets sent or received is actually a paid transaction same time. Now you can actually start to see how anything that's sent or received has a value to it. So this could actually have applications in climate change. You could actually start putting digital signals through to when trees die, how much that's costing the company, right? And when you replant, how much that actually gives back. And then for community interactions, if you had a community platform, you don't need to actually offer membership packages, so you don't need to sell them that. Just say, the more you contribute to this group, the more you will get paid. You see it will be happening in real time. And it is just like this account, if they go to their profile, they'll see their balance of money there just going up. Like it's crazy. I don't even put that much on one of these platforms called Twitch. And like I made $20 from like just putting up some of my own like thoughts, right? And
It's tricky because actually it's like money. It's like, and then you might get some bad user behavior. Right?
Correct.
Some bad actors. I can make a lot of money by being a troll.
well, then think about this. The person that's being trolled against is getting paid for that person to troll. So it's actually stupid for that troll to. This is the thing. This is where it balances out. Quite interesting, right? That person can keep trolling. It's like, yo, man, you paying me for every stupid message you're sending me, right? And it shifts the balance a bit, right? Because you're not going to get rid of trolls, right? They're going to be there. Some of them are just going to be like, I got lots of money, I'm just going to troll all of you, right? They could do that, right? Exactly. And a user could set the price of each comment paid to. Like, if you want to comment on my wall, right? I'm going to set the price. And people who really value will pay that in microtransactions.
Yeah, there's definitely some things that are just like dangerous.
Of course. Of course, it's because it's yeah. Anyways, another topic.
I'm really sorry. So this is a really interesting topic. So I'll let you guys talk about it after. So thank you so much, guys, for your time for doing the interview with us. And yeah, if you need anything, you know who to call. We're just wearing the one.
Yeah, thanks.